With Pokemon being a multimedia franchise, oftentimes one aspect will spill into another. On rare occasions, trailers for the video games will be fully animated even with scripted and voice-acted dialogue. These are different from the other times original animation was incorporated into television commercials, even though those are still magical in their very own way. Animated trailers almost feel like animated shorts as they continue delving into storytelling for the sake of bringing the game to life in order to advertise it. These animated trailers are few and far between, but boy are they some of my favorite things to watch on the internet. There have been 4 released for Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and Pokemon Masters. Interesting choices for games to receive this treatment, but they make for some of the great pieces of animation. I already talked about the Gates to Infinity trailer when discussing the Mystery Dungeon anime projects as a whole, so I guess today I'll be rounding up the trailers focusing on human characters. Grab your popcorn and get ready because these are Pokemon's animated trailers. Going in chronological order, we have Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Things start off with N walking into scene atop the Dragon Spiral Tower as the fog fades away. He doesn't say all that much because it pulls out and cuts to the title card, but this works as a way to set the scene and introduce what will follow. And of course, if you look at this through the lens of it being a trailer and a trailer for a sequel game at that, it gets fans immediately interested to see a major character from the previous game is still around. But we move on, catching up with Nate and Hugh in Aspertiate City on their way to receive their starter Pokemon. I might as well mention that the beginning music of this trailer is all original and is just so perfect for hyping things up. And I feel like this is one of those moments where an animation like this is so important in bringing the world of Pokemon to life. What would normally be a slow walk by pressing the directional pad is reimagined as 2 friends running headlong into the first steps of their journey. And I just love how the pace slows down just a bit once they come to the Overlook and meet Bianca. It doesn't slow down completely, but something about it along with the music changing just feels so natural. And again, this is one of those moments that really works for a trailer like this, revealing that this time around, Bianca is the one presenting us with a starter Pokemon. We don't get to see which Pokemon Nate will choose just yet, as we now cut to the gym where we find Rosa stretching as she's about to battle against Sharon. This is an interesting choice to cut away from Nate, but it's a pretty cool way of incorporating both of the game protagonists in the same story. Though I do believe that this segment was added later, but it all still works out. Basically, Nate is the one who follows the main story and Rosa is another trailer who happens to exist in this universe. Anyway, the rest of the sequence is one of the best animated Pokemon battles we've seen between Stoutland and Superior. Every move has so much weight behind it, and the timing behind every effect in the aftermath as well as the camera shake really helps to sell the impact of each hit. And they both use Protect pretty frequently, truly a competitive battle. Ultimately, we don't get to see this battle play out to completion, but it fits with the overall style of the trailer, being composed of vignettes of moments we'll experience for ourselves as a player. The next one introduces us to Torrance, as we're also back to following Nate for the remainder of the animation. Not too much to say here, but the 3D Magneton is a little weird, though it does remind me of how the theatrical movies will often do the same for some Pokemon. Nate walks up to Elisa as she sports her new look, and we finally get the reveal that Nate chose Tepig as his starter Pokemon, it now having evolved into an Emboar. Kinda neat how we see Rosa, Nate, and later Hugh with only their final stage of their starters. It was probably done as a way to show them as experienced and to relate to the older fans. Also, because this was a sequel to Black and White, there wasn't really a need to show the basic forms of the starter Pokemon and hold off the final ones as spoilers. The next sequence is the most significant of the short, as it has Nate, Hugh, and Sharon aboard the Team Plasma frigate, establishing the major threat of the game and giving us the most dialogue. Kind of cool how we see one grunt in particular being the leader of the bunch and a good amount of dialogue for herself. And if you thought we were done with battles, well, Seviper lunges out toward our heroes only for Arcanine to counter Bite with Bite and just yeet it all the way up into the sky to have Hugh's Samurott follow it up with an Ice Beam. Just do that snake is dead. This battle doesn't last as long as the previous one, but the action as well as the music carry over into the next sequence, as Nate and his Lucario pursue the Shadow Triad through Opelucid City. And after a good old-fashioned dramatic stare down before disappearing, the trailer comes in for a landing showing off the fusions of both Black Kyurem and White Kyurem, blasting into the box art and then cutting into release day. Rewatching this trailer, I'm almost surprised that it feels so incomplete. There's a bit of story and theming going on here, but definitely lacks a definitive conclusion. Though that is by design, this isn't an animated short, after all, it's an animated trailer. but getting to see this higher level of effort put into Pokemon anime was such a welcome treat. Keep in mind that this was released before we would start seeing all the Pokemon web animations with similar levels of effort released about every year or so. Randomly getting a trailer like this put online was extremely unexpected, and that's one of the things that makes it work so well. That, along with the fact that it is so beautifully animated and visually striking. And it was dubbed in English, which is pretty cool because we get to hear these frequent Pokemon voice actors playing these characters. Tom Whalen, Lisa Ortiz, Sean Schemmel, Jason Griffith, Sarah Natochenny, and Eileen Stevens are all here. The cast almost makes it feel like an alternate reality of the Pokemon anime or even a proper spin-off, especially because characters like Nate, Rosa, and Hugh were never adapted into the main series anime. Had Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 been released in modern time with animated web series being more prominent, I could totally see this having been made as a more complete series with multiple episodes a few minutes in length. But what we did get still works really well, being an experimental trailer for some experimental games. And even though Black 2 and White 2 ended up being some of the lowest selling main series games, the trailer was still very important, paving the way for even more animated projects. Though that's mostly all I can say about this trailer because it genuinely is that good.
Now it's Pokemon Battle Frontier. Then it's more Pokemon Battle Frontier on Cartoon Network.
It would be 2 years until we got the next animated trailer, and I think that's a reasonable amount of time. But it was kinda strange to see it done for Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Don't get me wrong, I love these games, they're probably my favorites. But as these were the long-awaited remakes of beloved games that had already proven themselves and were old enough to genuinely need a remake, there was no question as to whether or not these games would sell. But I guess if you look at it as a celebration of the games, then maybe that's a context and mindset we'll need going in. You're hit with nostalgia right off the bat as the camera pans down from a view of the Hoenn region to the house in Littleroot Town, all while the opening movie song from the video games plays. I think this is a perfect opening as a callback while also maintaining the same feelings of a quiet beginning before bursting into adventure. It's a peaceful morning as Trico climbs around to wake up Brendan, and outside we see May with Torchic and Mudkip. This is a great way to reveal all of the starter Pokemon by showing them off in their own comfort zones, enjoying what makes them happy or avoiding what they don't like. A great way to let us reminisce of our memories with them or learn about them for the first time through an introduction. I'll always laugh at Trico tickling Mudkip. The music continues to swell, and as May and Brendan pick up their Pokemon, we're launched into even more introductions to them as we see them all in action. We get a brief glimpse at a battle between a youngster and Brendan, though at this point a narrator jumps in and starts explaining basically everything for the rest of the trailer. And in my opinion, that really takes me out of it. I feel like it doesn't really add anything because, like I said, we could already get an understanding of these Pokemon's personalities just by watching. Regardless, we get a funny little moment with May and Torchic as they're surrounded by bug Pokemon in the Petalburg Woods that then transitions into a battle between her Mudkip and Roxanne's Nosepass. This is fun to see, and I honestly would have loved to see even more gym leaders or important characters show up similar to the last trailer. But Mudkip's mid-battle evolution leads us into the showcase of the final evolutions for every starter, and then finally their mega evolutions. And I don't mean to hate on this trailer, but this is the point where it kind of genuinely loses me, as it shows off the other mega evolutions added for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, while the narrator names them off one by one. There's still some amazing animation for each one of them, and they get their moments to shine. If one of your favorites appears here, like mine do in Mega Lopunny and Mega Sableye, then there's something of value, but ultimately nothing really happens during the sequence. There's no real story or themes being illustrated here, it's strictly commercial. That is until the end where May is shown participating in a contest with Mega Altaria and Mega Ondino, and Brandon prepares for a battle against Steven and his Mega Metagross. This specifically shows things you'll be able to do in the main game alongside your Pokemon, and even has a bit of growth for the characters in terms of what they're able to accomplish. And having Brendan and May ride on Mega Latios and Mega Latias shows a sense of adventure that was again foreshadowed in the opening movie for the original Ruby and Sapphire. Like I said, I don't hate this trailer at all, but the problem is that it had to follow one that hit it out of the park, and it just didn't stack up. And that is not to say that this one isn't objectively good, because it is really good. For the first 2 minutes, everything is paced so well as every scene flows into the next one, while showing us some new perspectives on a world we know and love. And it's so cool seeing the Mega Evolved Pokemon. I guess if anything, it just should have been more, I guess? I think the showcase of the Mega Pokemon would have been much more powerful had we seen them in battle, or at least in context of the story, continuing to bring those moments to life. Like, could you imagine if we had seen Maxie and Archie with their respective Mega Pokemon? Overall, this trailer makes for a pretty good second entry because so far we can rank them in order of appearance.
watching Pokemon Master Marathon, only on Cartoon Network.
The wait for the next real animated trailer would be twice as long as the last one, as we were blessed with one for Pokemon Masters, a mobile spin-off game that is soft canon to the main series. Basically, the whole point of the game is to interact with some of your favorite characters from the franchise, and seeing them all reimagined in this anime style is perfect. We get a cold open to a battle between champions Steven, Cynthia, and Lance against gym leaders Karina, Charon, and Misty. A good selection of trainers to portray how the game will be focused around 3-on-3 battles between these pre-established characters. The battle looks nice, though it isn't the main focus, as we pull out into a title card before cutting to two of the main trios that will be following for the next few minutes: Scotty, Brock, and Rosa, and Betty, Barry, and Iris. The trailer depicts the island of Pasio, a place where people can come together and witness battles between the world's strongest trainers, and even become inspired to challenge them. It does a great job showing the group's progression from one step to the next, including bits of a battle that communicate how the 3-on-3 system has each Pokemon covering for each other, and how trainers can help their partner's Pokemon. And the team compositions themselves show that anybody can come together. Just some great use of visual storytelling for game mechanics. The entire thing is fan service, but the next segment especially is, as Red and Blue watch other trainers battle, and then we just get a slideshow of stills of other characters who would be appearing in the game. A little less exciting until we get a glimpse at the mysterious new characters. Then we get one final catch up with the team led by Betty before slamming into the title screen. This trailer was more and less than the last one in various ways. I think it follows a similar premise and structure overall, though thankfully no narrator this time. But I feel that its brevity is a little more justified with this being a mobile spin-off game rather than a main series on a full console. Though now knowing what the gameplay is actually like, it makes those exploration scenes look a little like false advertising. Also, the story of the base game didn't necessarily have all that much that warranted being adapted or teased through animation beyond the exclusive characters. Again, I think the main point of this trailer is to show how this game really brought everyone together. It really built the hype for a game that I do personally enjoy and think has been handled well, and was the perfect game for Pokemon to release. This animation just sealed the deal and was a great treat for the fans. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the feelings of this trailer are present in the game itself, and it almost didn't even need it. Then again, maybe it did need some sort of big flashy trailer to sell the idea of a mobile gacha game to Pokemon fans. I maintain my opinion that these can be ranked in order of release. But those have been the animated trailers of Pokemon. Still to this day, I'm surprised we got anything like this at all, well, mostly the first two, because nowadays it's weird if we don't get an additional animated web series for the Pokemon franchise. They all add something in their own way, and even though you could argue that literally any Pokemon media is just an advertisement for the games, there's something to be said about the projects explicitly labeled as trailers with the sole intention of selling a game that come out being fun imaginings of the Pokemon world that feel like they were made simply for the love of Pokemon and the fans. When it comes to what we should expect for the future of animated trailers like this, I can't really say. The recent trend for trailers seems to be incorporating live action as a special treat, while we're solidly in a routine of animated web series every so often. But I think the fact that for over 25 years of Pokemon, we've only gotten a handful of full animated trailers, that makes these feel even more special. So let me know which of these are your favorite and what game you would have loved to see get a trailer in this style. All I can say is onward toward our own futures. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great Gators, Cheeseburger Lasers, Gavnuts, Justin R, Cosmo Zero, Michaela, Mr. Pig Puncher, Phantom Pyro, Quago, Volity, and Pastel Blood. If you would like to support, get your name shouted out here, as well as access to emotes and comments, live streams, and some early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well, but anyway, this has been GatorEX, and I'll catch you all later.
In Pokemon Black 2 and Pokemon White 2, there are new powers to unleash and new challenges to overcome. The new Pokemon Black version 2 and Pokemon White version 2. You can discover the new in 2. Playable on Nintendo DS and 3DS systems, rated E for everyone.